Relational sex. As we get into this whole topic of sexuality, I want to be really clear in distinguishing between object sex and relational sex, especially when we're dealing with sexual addiction or intimacy anorexia. The object sex thing is very common in our culture for especially young men, but there are women who get conditioned sexually with pornography and fantasy. Well, pornography and fantasy are objects. They're not souls. They're not people. They don't talk back. And what can happen is you can really get addicted to those voices and those ideas and those images, but you are having one-dimensional sex. You are not having reciprocal, relational, connected, full-dimension sex. And you can be an expert at object sex, but have no clue on having relational sex. And I see that all the time. And part of the recovery process is for those who are either stuck or challenged here is moving them into relational sexuality. So when I'm talking about sexuality, I'm talking about relational sex. I'm not talking about having sex and the other person feeling alone and disconnected or maybe even unimportant. I'm talking about a sexuality where there's engagement, connectedness, value, worth, treasuring of each other. So to have relational sex, here's some ideas, some tools to facilitate that. Number one, keep your eyes open. When you're having sex, look your spouse in the eyes. Look into their soul. See their heart. Be with them. Okay? Number two, some kind of lights on. Because sex in the dark, you're not attaching. You're not really seeing that person. Okay? And if the other person is going to another place, you won't know it because you can't see them. So some kind of light. Now, it doesn't have to be like theatrical lighting. Simple candlelight will do. As long as you can see the color of their eyes, you have enough light. And look into those eyes, have some light on. And the third principle is nurturing conversation. I am explicitly not talking about object communication, dirty talk, or anything that degrades the soul, the sexuality, or the person who you're being sexual with. That needs to be discussed. If something's unacceptable, it is unacceptable. Nurturing conversation, connecting to the person, celebrating them, valuing them. I talked about the book, Upgrade Your Sex Life. If you know their sexual expression, use those tools, use those words, those phrases, and the way they like to be talked to sexually, and allow them to have the optimal pleasure. But relational sex is the goal. So as we talk about sexuality, when Dr. Weiss is saying sexuality, he only means relational sexuality. He doesn't mean object sexuality or being used during sex. What I mean is sex and recovery, the objective is moving toward and staying in a relational sexual relationship.